Hi, guys. This is me, Carrie from Fullerton Professional Organizing. This is where we talk to people about decluttering our faith, decluttering our homes, and decluttering our business. And our guest today happens to be another fellow professional organizer, and we both used to be teachers. So I'm going to let her go ahead and introduce herself and tell us a little bit about herself. And then we'll talk about some subjects that we're both passionate about. Because we were teachers, it's more at the front of our minds. And I'll go ahead and let her get started.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's so exciting to be on a podcast and talk about a topic that's so, just such a heartwarming and uplifting topic for me. So my name is Caroline Dockery, and I own a professional organizing business right outside of Washington, D.C., in the very, very busy part of the state of Northern Virginia. And my company is called Categorically Caroline. So I was an English teacher, a high school English teacher before I started organizing. And when I was picking my business name, I had to have something with, alliteration or some kind of, funny little wordplay in it. So yeah, so my business primarily serves people in residential spaces. So working with people in their homes, but I also do office organizing and in office spaces, whether they're in the home or outside of the home. Sometimes I do small business organizing and
Yes,
people's
I do too. I love
um,
I love it when businesses need help,
mhm,
and I can I don't know. I think that's the thing about organizing. We enjoy fixing problems and being problem
mhm,
solvers. And, you know,
mhm,
I don't want to say it's like Tetris because I don't organize like it's Tetris. We want it to be free flowing and easy
mhm,
instead of all stacked up. But it's
mhm,
kind of like Tetris as far as its problem solving goes, right?
mhm. Right, right, absolutely. Yeah. And I think business spaces provide a unique opportunity to think differently and think creatively. I had a bakery project one time. I did a flower shop one
Oh,
time. So
fun.
yeah, so those have been really fun. And one of the other things I like to do is do academic organizing. So you had mentioned, we both come from a teaching background, and when I left teaching, I thought, oh, okay, well, that was that. Now I'm moving on to a new profession. But there's so much crossover. There's a lot of carryover from the teaching world, and it's just wonderful because now I can work with students in a way that, I always dreamed of being able to do. And
Yeah.
it's just been a real blessing. So yeah, so that's a little bit about me. And yeah, I'm so
That's
thankful to
awesome.
be here.
Well, tell us a little bit about the need out there for helping students. And I don't know how to ask that question, but go ahead
hmm
and just kind of explain your thought process and how you decided to work with students and what that looks like on my end.
hmm
Because I haven't actually worked with students, but I have thought about it because there is a
hmm
lot. I felt like there was a need
hmm
because it's not only going to help the parent, it's going to help the
hmm
student, but it's also going to help the teacher because
hmm
they're not
hmm
completely 100% focusing on just one student's need.
Yeah, yeah. So my the start of my academic organizing branch of my business came from a parent request, actually.
Mm.
I was working with a one person, and then she had a friend or neighbor who I started working with, and then the neighbor, and then that ladies happened to say, "Do you work with students?" Because she knew I was a teacher. And I said, well, I haven't in an organizing capacity, but I certainly used to. And that kind of was the beginning of my working with students. And typically, I do tend to work with high schoolers and early college age kids. So from
Yeah.
ninth grade up to like sophomore year of college. And I work one-on-one with them in sort of a coaching capacity. So it's usually after school. It's usually maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, do you do
And the
it on
duration of
Zoom
the
or do you do it in person?
in person, I do it in person, and I've tested the water on Zoom,
Mhm.
and none of the kids want to do Zoom.
Oh,
Absolutely none of
okay.
them. So maybe it's just too reminiscent of the COVID years or whatever, but everybody wants to do in person, and we usually meet at like a coffee shop or the library or their house sometimes, and we meet depending on what they need help with slash want help with. Sometimes we'll meet for a couple months. Sometimes we'll meet the entire school year. Sometimes we'll even meet in consecutive school years.
Mhm.
So I think my longest running student, I started working with him between his freshman and sophomore year, and now he's going to be a senior. So that's one example. And we work on a variety of topics. So what I do is I send out a survey to the parent, to the student, ask them what they think, they need help with. I have a series of options for them to pick from. And the options that we work on, they are mostly executive functioning topics.
Mhm.
So there are topics like time management, self-advocacy, prioritization, organizing of physical workspaces at home, sometimes digital organizing of their
Do they always
computer.
know exactly what they need when they reach out, or do you sometimes have to? I mean, sure, the survey helps definitely
Hmm.
because what
Hmm.
they know about themselves,
Hmm.
you wouldn't necessarily pick up immediately, but
Hmm.
do they always know everything that is involved in what they need from
Hmm.
you? Or do you have to kind
So,
of guide them a little bit?
so the initial answer is the survey does provide a lot of direction,
Okay.
and the 9 or 10 topics, they have a pretty good understanding of what they need help with. There isn't an extra section of the intro survey that asks, is there something else that's not written on this list that you think you need help with? And once in a while, I'll have people add, like, for example, college planning. That came out of a
Mhm.
parent request because
Yes.
it was not on the list
Yes.
initially. So that has become one of the other things that I work with kids on. And then once I'm with the kid and I'm working with them very early on, usually after the first session, so probably the second session, I will ask them to do a rating scale to
Hmm.
determine how stressful or anxiety producing certain things are that affect their day-to-day life as a student. And those questions on the rating scale come from the topics in the survey. And
Mm.
because I was a teacher, I taught special education, I taught general education,
Oh,
I taught
okay.
honors. So because I was a teacher, I can the questions are posed in such a way that they're very relatable. So the student
Hmm.
has a pretty good ability to answer, yes, I'm a 10 out of 10, or I'm a 1 out of 10, or whatever. So,
Hmm.
and that's another benefit of working kind of with the older kids is
Hmm.
that they're, while their self-awareness is still certainly developing,
Right.
they have enough history in school to be able to say, oh yeah, like I know this about myself. So yeah. So
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
hopefully.
and I forget you pretty much taught high school and pre-college age. So I can see how that, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
what are touch on some of the things that students usually hire you for, especially in the executive function. I know time management, but is there, I guess I'm asking more about the ADHD.
Mm.
Do you get a lot of ADHD, or is that primarily you know, what reaches out to you?
Yeah, yeah, I would say ADHD is one of them. I think some students without ADHD, but who just benefit from very clear structure, customized, individualized strategies that apply to them in their own lives,
Hmm.
um, is another kind of type of student. Often these students are doing okay academically, but they want to be doing better, or their parents know they could be doing better.
Hmm.
So there's like that optimization side, and sometimes they need to see what alternatives there are to what they've been trying. So,
Yeah.
for example, some kids have been using a digital planner or just relying on Canvas or Blackboard or Google Classroom
Mhm.
for their calendar keeping. And I say, well, that doesn't work for everybody. Sometimes people need to have a physical calendar. And so we talk a lot about tools and externalizing what you can, outsourcing what you can in order to preserve your working memory and not overtax it. And, you know, um, as far as ADHD goes, being able to rely on writing down something on a list as opposed to your mind just remembering something.
Right.
So,
Yes.
yeah,
I
yeah.
really, really, really love brain dumping.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a very good tool to just get it out of your mind and not have to worry about it. I do use a digital planner for alarms, but
Mm-hmm.
but I mostly use a paper calendar so that I can write
Mm-hmm.
everything down. And I
Mm-hmm.
do use one that was made for ADHD. It's the
Oh.
I forgot what it's called and I don't have it handy, but what it has is it has all the brain dumping at the top, and
Mm-hmm.
you can either categorize the brain dumping or just brain dump and use all the lines. Then
Mm-hmm.
in the middle, you can divide your brain dumping categories by day, but then the appointments from the
Mm-hmm.
above are, in the other categories. And then of course, time blocking is real
Mm-hmm.
effective. Even if you're using the time, I think the misconception about time blocking is they think that you're packing your day in like this. But really, time blocking is also putting in your breaks, because
Mm-hmm.
as a person with ADHD, sometimes you forget to eat. You
Mm-hmm.
forget to, you have time blindness. You forget to put in the time to get someplace and the extra time once you get there to take a pause instead of just
Right.
rushing in. So those are
Yeah.
great tools to for someone,
Mm-hmm.
anyone really.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's so much competition for our attention, our energy, our optimism. There's just so many competing factors every single day that, yeah, we have to be cognizant of not burning out and
Mhm.
not, running ourselves into the ground. And that's a great example of reminding ourselves taking a break is not lazy. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to go slough off and,
Mhm.
you know, do
Yeah.
whatever. But it's very restorative and an important part of being able to continue. And
Yes. I've had to learn that myself.
mm,
And I
mhm,
think now, maybe not as many people needed to learn this okay, maybe I should rephrase this. Maybe not everyone learned this lesson during COVID and they went back to the way things were before COVID, but COVID taught me to slow down and to
mhm,
take a breath and to breathe. And as faith as faith-based businesses, you and I probably we already know that God is first, our family is second, and then, you know, but it doesn't, just because we're organized doesn't mean it came naturally either. These are
mhm,
things I had to learn, and
mhm.
and then COVID just kind of made it a reality for
Mm-hmm.
me
Mm-hmm.
because I
Right.
did start my business during COVID. You started your
Mm-hmm.
business during COVID.
Yep. 2021.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, there's a lot of things. So it is possible to start a business. I'm kind of off track now,
Absolutely.
but it is,
Yeah.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
possible to start a business during COVID. It's,
Mm-hmm.
the pivoting may not have
Mm-hmm.
worked for everyone, but pivoting worked for us. And
Yep.
we're very blessed and to be able
Mm-hmm.
to pass along some things to others and to really help people. I think that's the real blessing of our business is that we really feel like we're accomplishing something important for people,
Right. Right. Right.
because if
Yeah.
they
And,
don't need
and
us, they
yeah.
wouldn't hire us. And the fact that we're being hired as often as we are really
Mm-hmm.
lets us know that there was a need. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just great to be needed, I think.
Yeah, I'm thankful for the founders of the professional organizing industry back in the 80s
Mhm.
who realized, wait a minute, we have decorators, we have architects, we have housekeepers, but
Mhm.
we need something else. And
Mhm.
and professional organizing, I'm still finding people periodically who don't know what it is. They
Mm.
don't know that this is an
Yes.
industry. They don't know that people are out there who can help with these types of very, very specific things. And,
Yes.
sometimes even I'll have people ask me like, oh, do you do this or that? And I'll say, well, yeah, actually, yes, I do. So, it's just wonderful to know that there's help out there
Yeah,
for
it's definitely not a boring business because it's ever improving as far as there's always new ways that
hmm
people come up with to make life easier. And
hmm
our clients are different. And so,
hmm
it's I kind of talk about folding clothes, folding clothes is almost the same all day long if that's what you needed to do. I only relate it because I used to work at Sam's Club and I was in sales, but I
hmm
couldn't picture myself being on the sales floor folding clothes as a
Yeah.
job every day for the rest of my life.
hmm hmm
Blessed to those that do that, but
hmm
that would be boring. Now, do I still fold clothes? Yes, for clients, I do fold clothes, but it's different for every client. Every job is different, every project is different. You're not just doing the exact same thing like a cookie cutter every single day, and I love
Yeah.
that.
Me
Um,
too. Me too.
yeah. So, how did you decide this is what you wanted to do? How did you get to the point where you're like, you know what, I am going to start this business?
So it was important to me to do a lot of research before starting. So I looked at the labor market. Did a lot of like economic research into home services, personal services, industries. And then I also served as a contractor for an established organizing company here in our area for about a year. And I
Mhm.
wanted to see like, okay, there's a viable business to be had, but would I actually like doing this work? Because I
Yeah.
did not want to go from being a teacher to doing something I didn't like or didn't
Mhm.
want to do. So it was important to me at least to, have the hands-on knowledge that yes, this is something that I can see
Yeah.
myself doing long term.
What made you
Um,
interested in pursuing professional organizing?
Well, I think the Lord, to be honest with you, the
Okay.
Lord was the impetus because I started with no other plan after teaching. I was like, what am I going to do now? And I'd just always been good at organizing myself, and I'd enjoyed it. And I thought, well, okay, let me write a list of what I enjoy doing. Let me write a list of what I don't enjoy doing or don't enjoy doing.
Yes.
Um, and that was one of the top three choices that I'd come up with. And I don't even remember what the other two were. Oh, an industrial psychologist. That was another one, but that would involve going and getting another college degree. So I
Right.
was like, I don't want to
Yeah.
do that right now. So yeah, so it was, but I feel like the Lord just put it on my heart that this would be something that would serve me well and be able to use my talents and abilities to help others.
That's interesting. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, and I find it also interesting that there are professional organizers that started because they were organized, and then there are people like me that well, now I'm talking about a 35-year journey to organizing, even because when I got married 35 years ago, I started studying organizing for my own home. And I found
Mm,
that very fascinating. I knew
mm,
nothing of, I didn't even know that you could, there was a thought. I just thought your kitchen stuff, go into your kitchen. I had
mm-hmm,
no idea. Now, I'm not saying
mm-hmm,
I was a horrible, messy person. I just didn't allow, I just first got married and started studying it right away and found it
mm-hmm,
fascinating. But
mm-hmm,
yeah, that is, and then I, of course, did the research to see if I knew if I
mm-hmm,
could do it in for other people, because it is
mm-hmm.
different doing it for yourself and doing it
Yeah,
for others. Well,
right, right.
we've got about 10 more minutes. So
Mm-hmm,
now that you have your professional organizing business, and we already talked about how we have to schedule in fun. What are
mm-hmm.
some things that you do for fun? What do you love to do on your downtime?
Well, that's a good question. And I'm working on the answer to that because I am a self-professed uh workaholic in a sense, and that has not always uh been the best thing for me. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to get better balanced. But I love traveling, so that's one thing I like to
Oh,
do in my spare time. And whether that's just a day trip or going out of town, like I just love history, I love architecture, I love nature, so I love that. I love going for walks, and I do like watching TV. So
yeah.
another, yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Well,
reading. I'm getting back into reading
ah,
after years of teaching reading. I took a little break and just kind of, did other things. But yeah, I'm back into reading and I really enjoy
good.
that.
Well,
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Sometimes we're type A, right? And we need to force ourselves to have that downtime,
Mm-hmm.
which is great because we can schedule that in first.
Mm-hmm.
One of my tips is you schedule that in first, and
Mm-hmm.
then you schedule your business. It's still scheduled, you're still booked.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Mm-hmm.
have to book it in. Um,
Mm-hmm.
now, just so our audience knows, just because we're professional organizers doesn't mean we're perfectly organized in every single area, correct? So, what is
Correct.
one area that you struggle to organize that you work on that's
Mm-hmm.
more of a struggle? And then what have you perfected? What are the two opposites in your
Mm-hmm.
life?
Right. Yeah, personally in my life, I would say one of the struggle points in my house is our kitchen cabinets.
Hmm.
And funny enough, it's because they're so small. We
Mm.
live in a house in the 60s and they're the original cabinets.
Yeah,
But
ours are mine too. I don't even have a pantry.
yeah, yeah. So I would say that's like I've tried different products and arrangements, and
Hmm.
it's just a constant, just making the best I can. Like it's never going to be unless I rip out the whole kitchen, which I do plan to do
Yes,
eventually.
I would
But,
love to do that too.
yep, yep, yep. So, but until then, it's just kind of making the best of it as I can.
Yes.
And then something I guess I've perfected in my organizing of my house
Or that you're
would
the
be,
most proud of. It doesn't have to be
yeah.
perfected, but
Yeah, right. I would say my closet. probably. It's very easy to find what I'm looking for. I'm constantly, getting rid of things that I don't wear anymore. And I know where every single thing is if I'm
Mhm.
looking for anything.
Oh,
So
that's
yeah, I
great.
would say that's a happy point.
All
But
right.
you're
Well,
right. I
we're
mean,
gonna
perfection is
oh,
not
go
the
ahead.
aim.
Say
I
that
was
again.
just going to say, I said you're right that perfection is not the aim. It's about accessibility and
Mhm.
having it be realistic and having it be maintainable. So yeah, yeah. I have a friend who owns a business and she makes stickers and one of the stickers says progress over perfection.
Yes, I
And
say that a lot.
yep,
Because
yep.
yeah, and plus it's got to function for you. I mean,
Hmm.
I have a small Dollar Tree trash can holding trash bags next to my trash can. Is that ideal? Is it decorative? No, but I know that my whoever takes out the trash, because it's not me, whoever takes out the trash is going to more likely put that bag in if they don't have to walk under and find it under the kitchen cabinet, even
Hmm.
though it's just a short walk. I know if it's right there
Hmm.
next to the trash can. So I'm okay with the two trash cans
Hmm.
side by
Hmm.
side. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, all right. Well, now I'm going to put all of this, of course, in the description, but anything that you would like to share with the listeners about how in your, if they're listening in your area, how they can reach you, if they're listening to this podcast.
Yeah, so I'm on social media, so that's a great way to see both what I'm doing and ask questions and also get my contact info. So Facebook and Instagram are my two primary social media platforms. So if you just look up Categorically Caroline, that will come up. And then I have a website also, which is the same name, categoricallycaroline.com. So those are the two best channels to reach me, but I'm in Prince William County and I serve pretty much the whole Northern Virginia metro area. So yeah, pretty big distance. But yeah, those are the great ways to get in touch.
Awesome. Well, we probably only have a minute left. So, just anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted your audience to know.
Hmm. Well, I think just that don't be afraid to ask for help, I
Mm,
would say. I think
yeah, that's
sometimes people go through extra stress and anxiety and embarrassment, etc., because they either don't know who to ask or where to ask, or even that if there's anybody out there. So, there I find that there's oftentimes help for many different things in life. And it's just a matter of getting up the courage and finding a friendly voice on the other end of the phone.
Yeah,
So,
and I think sometimes we assume that something's going to cost more than it does. And if
mm,
we at least find out what it
mhm,
takes to get the help, then you can make an informed decision. You can go, oh, well,
mhm,
that's a little out of my budget. I guess or you find out,
mhm,
um, oh, okay, that's not too
mhm,
bad. I can do that. But
mhm,
if you don't, make that first step and start and try to find out what it takes to get help, then
mhm.
you don't know at all. You don't have
Right,
choices. So,
right,
all
right,
right.
right.
Well, thank you, Caroline.
Yes. Well,
Having
thank you.
this is always fun. I always hate it when it ends, but
Mhm.
I am so happy that you came on,
Yes, thank you so much.
and I want to thank you also for listening and watching, and share this with your friends. Give us thumbs up, subscribe, comment, ask questions, all the things, because it pushes out our podcast to more people. And plus, we like to answer your questions and we like to know what we can help you with. All right,
Mhm.
we will talk to you later.
All right. Bye.